Welcome to excuse me, starting off on the wrong foot. Welcome to episode 61 of Nickel Valley Talk, the podcast provided by Tourism Nickel Valley, Experience Nickel Valley, and Experience Merit. Nickel Valley Talk is part of the award-winning Experience Nickel Valley program, which recently was awarded a national and provincial award for Best Community Marketing Program. Nickel Valley Talk is broadcast every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time from Merritt, British Columbia, Canada. Off the Clock City Talk is a special episode of Nickel Valley Talks. It's held the last Thursday of every month, and its purpose is to provide the citizens of Merritt information on the workings of City Hall and the issues that arrive and lead to the various decisions that are made on your behalf by council. So we have a few sort of instructions that we like to give out before we get into this broadcast. So I'll just scoot over them for you. First of all, this is a information giving exercise. We're not here to provide debate. The information is derived from factual sources such as the Municipal Act or the Local Government Act, and is not necessarily the opinion of our speakers. Secondly, we are not a platform for debate. We are going just providing information, and you can use it however you wish, but tonight we won't be debating any of the issues. We encourage our viewers to post their thoughts on the chat section of the program, and if we have time, we'll try and get to answer some of your questions. All negative or abusive comments will be ignored or possibly deleted. Feel free to post your questions in the comment section. And again, if we have time, we'll try and answer them near the end of the program. So my name is Tom Reynolds, and I'm your host, community blogger for Experience Nickel Valley, and your host tonight. So would you please take, sorry, got lost on my page. So my name is Tom Reynolds, and I'm your experienced community blogger. So off the Clock City Talk, working behind the scenes is our eco-blogger, Tanya Stewart. And tonight we're going to talk operations of City Hall and the roles of the mayor and councillors with Councillor Melvina White and Councillor Tony Luck. So welcome, Melvina and Tony. So to get the thing started, as usual, Melvina, could you just bring our viewers up, especially for the new viewers? We seem to be getting quite a few new viewers every week, so we go through the same exercise and have you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and share what you think the importance of this topic might be tonight.
Okay, my name's Melvina White. I'm a city councillor with the city of Merritt, and I'm also a lifestyle blogger, country lifestyle blogger with Experience Nickel Valley. The topic tonight is an important one. I believe the operation of City Hall, mayor and councillor, as well as CAO roles are important for the fact there are several values, policies, and procedures that need to be learned, followed, and understood. There's a limit to what mayor and council can do on their own, as there's a number of areas that are governed by the provincial government. And we'll cover some of those issues tonight.
Thanks, Melvina. Tony, pretty much the same question.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Really appreciate being here tonight. Once again, I'd just like to thank Experience Nicola Valley and Tourism Nicola Valley and that for hosting this this platform for us to talk a little bit and educate and discuss some of the issues of City Hall and some of the challenges we have. So I really appreciate that, Tom, and what they're doing here. I think it's a really good platform. The reason I think it's an important topic tonight, and believe me, the last couple we've done, I felt pretty comfortable about this one, but when I got into digging into this one, there's a lot of information here, a lot of things that I learned as I was doing some research as well. But I think it's an important topic because for the most part, a lot of citizens, me included, don't always understand how governments work in British Columbia and Canada, and especially at the local level. Why do things happen the way they do or work the way they do? Some people think we should just be able to run roughshod over everything and just do what we like on council, but that's not always the case, right? We have people to account to, and you know, the other thing is as well as as I put this together, I thought about, you know, that there's no other level of government in Canada that the people have such close access to. You know, when we have our council meetings, the public is welcome. You know, during COVID, it's been a little restricted, but they have access to council. They can come into council chambers. We give them time to talk to the council and those kind of things. So you can't do that at the Parliament buildings in Ottawa. You can't do that at the legislature in Victoria. And so it's a very interesting level of government, and the public has pretty good access. So it's important for them to understand the process. And I had another one here, and I can't read my own writing, Tom, so I'll leave that for now. So yeah, I think it's really important that we do these things. And oh, I know what it was, is that I believe, and I'll put some stats at the end of our conversation, that this is where the citizens of Canada, British Columbia, and Merritt, or any city, get the biggest bang for their buck, I believe. And I'll try to put some numbers in at the end of our conversation to kind of explain that. So yes, thank you for hosting us, Tom. Appreciate being here. Okay,
well, municipalities in BC are responsible for providing local services and governance to approximately 89% of the province population. Municipalities can be classified as either a town, village, district, or city, depending on the size of their population and geographic area. Merritt is classified as a city. Municipalities were first established in BC in the late 1800s. Since then, the roles and responsibilities of municipalities have evolved over time to become more complex. The BC government sets the legislation that provides municipalities with the authority and flexibility to respond to the varying needs and changing circumstances of each community. Within that framework, the BC government regards municipalities as autonomous, responsible, and accountable government directed by democratically elected councils. My question is, Tony, could you please share with us what is the legislation that provides municipalities with the authority to govern?
Absolutely, Tom. Thank you. One of the words in your introduction there for that question was autonomous. We wish we're as autonomous as we'd like to be, I think, and I'll try to prove that as we go through here, that we do have some strings attached at best, right? And so interesting. Thank you for that. So as you may know, or have heard me say in the past, local governments are at the behest or pleasure of senior levels of government. We get our authority, or as some may say, subordinate to. It's like a child-parent relationship to some degree, right? And local governments, including municipalities and regional districts, have derived their power through the community charter and the local government. Those are the two acts specifically that give us our marching orders, allow us to do what we do as a city, as a council. These define the core authorities of local governments and guide decision-making. The City of Vancouver is served by its own legislation known as the Vancouver Charter. And there's a couple other anomalies as well, and I'll explain those a little later. But for the most part, most of those municipalities you talked about there, Tom, in your introduction, are governed by the Community Charter. So the Community Charter provides the statutory framework for all municipalities in BC except the City of Vancouver. The Charter sets out municipalities' core areas of authority and responsibility, including broad powers for such things as municipal services, public health regulations, property taxation, financial management, procedures such as developing and adopting bylaws, which are pretty familiar to most people because that's what we deal quite significantly with bylaws. And some people, much to the chagrin of some people, bylaw enforcement. So those are the powers that were given to us through the Charter. The Community Charter broad powers include fundamental municipal powers, sorry. So they include corporate powers, and that's kind of like, and I'll explain a little bit more, is like a natural person. We're incorporated pretty much like most businesses are incorporated, and we're kind of like as we call in law, a natural person, right? And so we have the service powers that, we provide the services that the citizens need: water, sewer, septic, police, fire, those kind of things. And then we have regulatory powers, making the bylaws and that, and much to the chagrin again of some people, specific powers such as expropriation. We have the power to expropriate as well. It doesn't happen very often, but it's there if a municipality needs that. So to balance, these are pretty broad powers if we want to act upon them here, but to balance the broad powers provided to local governments, the Charter contains provisions for accountability and public participation, such as the electoral approval process, the annual municipal reporting, and ethical conduct rules for its elected officials as well. These are just to name a few. There's a few more in there, but those are just a couple examples. And the Community Charter also addresses municipal-provincial relationships with principles, consultation requirements, and dispute resolutions. As you, once again, hark back to the autonomous piece. We're not as autonomous as we'd like to be, and that's where this process too, because municipalities can't really be running amok, and we'll try to explain that as we go through here as well, Tom. Other legislation makes certain provisions of the Community Charter also apply to regional districts. Now, we're in Merritt, we're a city, but we also, as part of the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, it also has some similar things to what a municipality do, but not really. They have a little more beholden to the provincial government in that then. The Local Government Act. So we have the Community Charter, and then there's also the Local Government Act. The Local Government Act is the primary legislation for regional districts and improvement districts, setting out the framework for structure and operations, as well as the main powers and responsibilities. Certain municipal provisions of the local government also apply to municipalities. So the bulk of the Local Government Act applies to regional districts, but there is some that spill over into the municipality. I don't know why they haven't included those just all in the Community Charter and kept it clean, but it is what it is. And, for example, municipal tax sales, the provisions for doing that are found in the Local Government Act. Local governments have broad powers and can provide services, and we can also enter an agreement and regulate people and their property. Ooh, that sounds like a little harsh, doesn't it? We can, crack the whip and that, but not as simple as that. These activities can be done by the local government or through delegation and working with others. So we also have the right to delegate and work with others. We're allowed to bind contracts with people. For example, if we want to have somebody, like a few years ago, the aquatic center was run by a contractor. We have the right to do that, contract it out. They become accountable to us, and then we're accountable to the provincial government as well. So many services include works and facilities provided by the community by or on behalf of local government. So that's what we can do. This is a lengthy answer. I hope you don't mind, Tom. Trying to really set.
It's actually quite a big topic.
It's a huge topic today, Tom. I really appreciate the time, because as we looked into it, we tried to hone this down, right, Melvin? It's a big topic, and we really like the citizens to understand it. And as, like I said, I even learned some things through. But so under the Community Charter and Local Government Act, municipalities and regional districts have broad authority to provide the services that are needed in a community. For example, so we've often talked about core services, or I have, and the core services of a city or water, sewer, police, fire, roads, maybe some recreational facilities and things like that. And as I said, a lot of other stuff are kind of the thing that build that social structure within a community. You know, things like grants and things like that. So, you know, you have your core services that you need to be responsible. So we have those broad authorities to work through those. And most powers are exercised within the boundaries of a local government. Local governments can also exercise some powers outside their boundaries, for example, issuing intermunicipal business license. And I believe it was just last year we did that. We got together with a number of other municipalities and we worked together. And now we have an intermunicipal business license. That's really good for people. If somebody lives here in Merritt, they want to work in Kamloops, they don't have to go to there to get a business. So it works really good. So we like that. Now, I'll just quickly kind of sum up here, but how is this all done? It was established through legislation, Tom, is that most municipalities are incorporated by the BC government through the issuance of a legal document called letters patent. And you've probably heard of that term before, Tom, I'm sure. And some of the people, it's basically a legal term the legal term for legislation, I guess it would, for ease of understanding. Each letter patent contains the name of the municipality, describes or presents its boundary, and establishes its classification, what kind of municipality it is or how it works. For example, Whistler has its own charter, and it's a Whistler Resort Charter. I think it's truncated the name a little bit, but it's specifically for Whistler because it's just a different kind of municipality. So early municipalities were incorporated by the colonial or provincial legislation under legislative acts, although the power to create new municipalities in response to local interest was granted the provincial cabinet in 1910. So we derive our power from the legislature. The city of Vancouver is an enduring example of municipality that's been around for a very long time. We also have examples. City of Powell River is an unusual animal, and the resort municipality of Whistler as well. And so we can also, under these legislations, we have the opportunity to change our boundaries and do a few things like that through the government. So letters patent is a legal document created by the BC government which established the framework which a municipality or regional district is created. So as I go back to the beginning, we're at the behest of the provincial or federal government. Provincial government got its power from the Constitution, and then we get ours from the provincial government. So, all right, so legislative powers and limitations. Letter patents are often considered the constituting documents of a local government, setting out its boundaries, name, and other specific matters. Are issued by a local government, is created and incorporated, and we become a corporation. Letters patent may include special provisions that are customized permanent or temporary measures to adapt to local government needs. Examples of specific provisions are property tax limits, provisions for island municipalities, authority for revenue sharing among local governments. Letter patents may also include specialized provisions such as those for the purpose of preventing, minimizing, or otherwise addressing any transitional issues subject to specific limitations for that. So that's where we get our power from for being a municipality and doing what we do and how we work with. I'll try to explain a little later some of the challenges we have with that as well, and some of the legislation going on with that. So thank you, Tom.
Just as an aside, I think the community charter is somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 years old. And at the time of its introduction, they said, this is just interim. We're going to clean up the Local Government Act and everything will be in one spot. 20 years later, we're still dealing with exactly the same legislation. Same legislation,
yeah. Well, we've heard that term many times, especially with income tax. This is just temporary.
Yeah.
So there has been, you're right, Tom, and there has been some chatter about updating. I think I saw some information around 2015 that the process was started. I think that's the date. I hope it wasn't 2005, but I think it's 2015. But yeah, you're right. It's badly in need of updating.
But anyway,
yeah.
Bottom line is we're a creature of the provincial government.
Creature of the provincial government, yeah.
So Melvina, could you talk to us about municipal governance and the role of the mayor and council?
Yes, thanks, Tom. Municipal council is the governing body of a municipality. It's got the authority to make decisions and act for the municipal corporation, being the municipality. consistent with the purposes of a municipality and its authority and requirements under legislation, bylaws, and policies. The purposes of municipality include providing for good government of its community, providing for services, laws, and other matters for community benefit, providing for stewardship of the public assets of its community, fostering the economic, social, and environmental well-being of the community. A municipal council makes decisions collectively, meaning that it is not individual council members or just the mayor, but rather the mayor and council as a whole, based on a majority vote that decides and acts for the municipality. Municipal councils have one employee, and that is the Chief Administration Officer, known as the CAO, who is responsible for the municipal officers and employees, often referred to as the municipal administration. While council sets the policy direction for municipality, the municipal administration implements that direction. Each municipal council in BC consists of a mayor and councillors. All members of council have a number of responsibilities while in office. Through a majority vote, council members make collective decisions in the best interest of the community with the help of recommendations supplied to the CAO by staff. Municipalities and regional districts in BC are empowered by provincial legislation to govern in a wide range of areas. Local government, governance, and powers focus specifically on how municipal councils and regional district board of directors organize, lead, oversee, operate, and provide services and make themselves accountable to their communities. Tony will elaborate in detail a little later on about the processes involved in local government governance. Mayor responsibilities. The mayor is the head and chief executive officer of the municipality. The mayor has all the responsibilities of a councillor plus several additional responsibilities. The mayor votes as a council member and does not have any veto power. Under the community charter, the mayor must provide leadership to council, including recommending bylaws, resolutions, and other measures that may assist in the peace, order, and good governance of the municipality. Reflect the will of council and carry out other duties on behalf of council, such as attending ceremonies and meetings of other bodies. Communicate information to council, for example, from the chief administrative officer or from meetings with other bodies. Chair council meetings, including overseeing their conduct, maintaining order, and knowing the rules of governing meetings. Establish standing committees and appoint people to those committees. Provide on behalf of council general direction to municipal officers about implementation of municipal policies, programs, and other council directions. Suspend municipal officers and employees if the mayor believes this is necessary, subject to confirmation by council under Section 151 of the Community Charter. Councillor responsibilities under the Community Charter. A municipal councillor must consider the well-being and interests of the municipality and its community, contribute to the development and evaluation of municipal policies and programs, respecting its services and other activities, participate in council and committee meetings and contribute to decision-making, carry out other duties as assigned by the council, such as heading committees or being the liaison to a particular neighborhood in the municipality. Follow the rules in legislation, bylaws, and council policies that establish any additional duties and set out how council members exercise their authority. CAO responsibilities, in addition to the required corporate administration officer and financial administration officer positions, municipalities and regional district may establish any officer position. While not required position, local governments in BC nearly always establish a chief administrative officer position. The position is mayor and council's only employee. The Community Charter and Local Government Act provide for a chief administration officer to have the following duties: manage the local government operations overall, implement the municipal council or regional district board's policies, programs, and other directions, advise and inform the council or board on the local government's operation and affairs. Local government employees, the chief administration officer, corporate officer, and financial officer are generally the local government staff supporting the local government's operations at a senior level. Along with the officers, a local government may choose to appoint such as department heads. It takes a wide variety of employees to run programs, provide services, and to implement the policies and decisions made by elected officials. CAOs typically serve as the primary point of contact between the council or board and the local government staff. The municipal council often delegates to the CAO the responsibility to hire individuals to fill the other officer and employee positions. And yeah, thanks.
Okay, well, thanks, Melvina. That was quite a complicated dissertation on what's going on. But basically, if I'm hearing you right, the mayor and council are responsible for developing the policies based on the Local Government Act, and the chief administrative officer is your only employee, and he's responsible for making sure that the wishes of council are carried out through its staff. So I think that's kind of summers it.
It does.
Okay, so the community charter recognizes that there are 4 overlapping areas municipalities and the provincial government have shared responsibilities in regulating activities. Tony, could you provide us with those 4 areas of shared responsibility, how they affect the governance of the city?
Absolutely, Tom, thanks. So as we said, local and government and provincial, they have concurrent authority over some areas. There is some overlapping areas, as you spelled out in the community charter. And that recognizes, so there's 4 spheres or areas of municipality and provincial government have a shared interest in regulation of activities and creating laws, right? And I think to help us understand that is a municipal government cannot be creating laws that are going to contravene or be in opposition to a federal provincial law, right? And which kind of makes sense, as otherwise we'd be off on our own kind of thing, right? And to much of the chagrin. So that's that. We're not completely autonomous piece. There's those feelers that come in there. But the community charter concurrently authorized provisions apply to laws that deal with, and these are the 4 areas: public health, protection of the natural environment, wildlife, and I can't remember the last time we did a bylaw for bears or deer, so that was an interesting one, and prohibition of soil removal or prohibition of deposit of contaminated soil, which kind of makes sense on that. That's a big environmental issue. Municipalities are provided with powers to adopt bylaws on matters covered by these spheres or concurrent authority. However, this municipality authority is subject to provincial involvement. Municipalities are not as autonomous as they may appear to be in public. So provincial involvement, any new municipal bylaw or amendment to an existing law that relates to one of these 4 spheres of current authority requires provincial government involvement. Bylaws related to the 4 spheres of concurrent authority must do one of the following: comply with the regulation of the responsible minister, comply with an agreement between the responsible minister and the municipality or regional district, and be approved by the responsible minister. So if we look at that, so there'd be 4 ministers. So obviously with the public health one, you'd be talking to the Minister of the Public Health. You'd be, for natural environment, you'd be Minister responsible for the Environment and Management Act, which runs the province. Wildlife, Minister of the Wildlife Act, et cetera, et cetera. So it depends on who these are. And so with this autonomy piece, it's really important for the public to understand that we are, so there's some things like when it comes to maybe water, under natural environment and things like that, we have challenges that we can't always do what we want to do without getting working in collaboration with the provincial government. I think I've spoken that for. I think there's a few other ones there too, but although we don't really have jurisdiction over housing. Housing is an important one that we have collaboration with, and maybe somewhere around the road, Tom, when they ever get to the community charter, that this may or may not be included in there. So we can get some of these sticklers or irritants out of the way. We have clear direction as we go ahead, right? So one of the things that we talk about, well, let me go off here a little bit of how we proceed with that, and then I'll talk about a word called paramountcy, just so people understand sometimes the tightrope we walk as councillors. So how to proceed. Before adopting a bylaw, each municipal council or regional district board must determine if the matter under consideration falls within a concurrent sphere of authority. So we're looking to putting a law in for soil removal or contaminated soil or storing that soil here on site. We're going to have to talk to the Minister of Environment and see if we got any legislation or any agreements in place to see if we can move forward with that. We can't just do it unilaterally. We have to do that bilaterally with the provincial government. So we just want to make sure we got those bases covered, you know. Another one that's not included here, I'm just thinking today is probably appropriate today, is Indigenous as well. Let's see, I think that's maybe a fifth one that we need to do is anything to do with the lands now that aren't under contract or been given to the city. We have to work with them as well. So that's another area that I think should be probably included in that list. So the councillor board will want to determine if there is a relevant regulation in place. By regulation, the responsible minister may define the scope of the provincial interest regarding a particular sphere of concurrent authority. And that, I think, would mean that as we look at the responsibility of the area that we want to do some bylaws in, or it would degree a scale of how important they are to the provincial government overall versus the city and things like that. So I know we've done some we've talked about, and you know, we kind of get the okay pretty easily. Other ones, it's a lot bigger challenge to get a chance to do things. The one I think of right now is Tom, close to your heart, the North Bench area, right? We want to maybe bring that in and get tenure of that land in there so we could do some development, including trails and parks. But that's going to be a long process because there's a lot of stakeholders in there that we're going to have to work with. Even though that land was given to the part of city when it had its patent given to it back in 1911 or when we were incorporated, we still have a lot of negotiations to do on that land. So that's part of the process, if you can see. So if a bylaw is in accordance with the relevant minister's regulations, the bylaw may be adopted without having to obtain specific ministerial approval. So if it's already on the books and the ministry says, you know, you can do this, this, and this, and we fit into those three categories, whatever it is, then we can move ahead without too much problem. The responsible minister regulations under the community charter designates the minister responsible for each of these four spheres of concurrent authority, as the names of the ministers responsible have shown. So what I'd like to just do in here is interject that we can do a lot of things. We have control of zoning, bylaw, land use, and those kind of things. But sometimes we can do things, and I'm thinking of a situation that happened recently in Penticton. The Penticton Council, there was a proposal brought forth for a social housing project in some of its land here, and the city council chose not to approve that project because they thought it was the wrong place, the wrong size, all the regular things that we hear about projects like that. The provincial government, through its authority, was able to step in, or could step in, and they would use a term called paramountcy, meaning they have final say over something, and they can come into your municipality and say, council, nice discussion, we like what you said, you voted wrong, we are now going to let you know that we are giving approval for this project. And so council has to be very careful when they're dealing with projects like that, because if a council says no, the provincial government, just so you know, and it's happened recently, so they can exercise this paramountcy where they can come in and say, we are going to approve this project, move ahead, especially if they're financing through the Ministry of Housing or something like that, Tom, they can kind of do that little bit of an overreach there and do that kind of thing. So it gets a little uncomfortable for council and citizens as well, but I think we have to understand that. I think citizens and council need to understand, because those are some of the constraints you work with. And having said that, I'll talk about this in the next question that you have, Tom. But so we pretty much kind of covered off that piece there and about the spheres of influence, I guess we could call them. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Melvina, could you share with us a couple of examples of some of the challenges these shared responsibilities have?
Well, local governments provide local services to people at the level they want and at a price elected officials determine they can afford. They do this while working within provincial standards in areas like public health, environmental protection, and safety. A couple of examples on environmental protection would be in British Columbia, the Building Act gives the province the authority to set the BC Building Code and other provincial building regulations. The province gives local government the ability to administer and enforce provincial building requirements, including the BC Building Code. In a nutshell, the Constitution Act gives the province responsibility to regulate building and construction, and the province gives local governments limited authority to administer and enforce the BC Building Code. The city, we have the city can put in place maybe the character of a building, what color it's going to be, or those types of things, but cannot tell them how many 2x4s they can use to build their project. That's already determined by the provincial government. Another example is repairing the walking bridge between Lions Park and Nicola Park and the riverbanks in the same area damaged by the flood in 2019. Neither one of these repairs could be done without consultation with fisheries and finding a window to carry out the repairs. Finding the window to be able to do the work is a challenge and can obviously delay the repairs, which it has done. And I believe that there's also environmental consultation in there as well, but fisheries would be the biggest one. And that's it on that topic. Thanks.
Thanks, Melvina. Municipalities in BC are empowered by provincial legislation to govern in a wide range of areas. Local governance and powers focus specifically on how municipal councils organize, operate, provide services, and make themselves accountable to their communities. Tony, could you please explain to the audience the processes involved in local government governance and powers?
Sure, Tom. So as we've talked about and said a number of times, is that municipalities and regional districts in BC are empowered by provincial legislation to govern a wide range of areas. Local government governances and powers focus specifically on how municipal councils and regular district boards of directors organize, operate, provide service, and make themselves accountable to their communities. These processes involved in local governments and power include general local elections. We touched on that lately, but that's of course one of the big ones. There is anybody in the city in a municipality has the capacity to, or is able to run for municipal office. And as a municipal officer, you're working with the council and mayor. You're able to bring these bylaws in. So that's direct democracy. It's a real process in Canada that can work and have people out of the community that can run for office and work through the processes. Service provisions, we have a whole list of service provisions we do. I touched on those lightly, the core services plus some other fundamental things that the communities want. And then the establishment and enforcement of bylaws and other regulations that help govern the city and keep, good order in government, they used to say, good order and good government. Having these powers in place that we're able to do that, and of course with democracy in place as well. So in order for municipalities to operate effectively, they must be able to exercise certain fundamental powers to operate as a legal body and to interact with others, the other senior levels of government, groups, individuals as well. So corporate powers and legislation. In BC, local governments cooperate powers are broadly stated in provincial legislation or similar to both municipalities and regional districts. The corporate powers of municipalities are described in Section 8 of the Community Charter as being natural person. I talked about that a little earlier. It's like the same as a corporation that's been incorporated has what's called natural powers. It acts like a human being. It has all the attributes, except their physical body, and that legal attributes of a real person. Okay, and it can act. It can sign contracts. It can fulfill contracts. It can, go to tender, do all those kind of things, just like you or I could do in the same capacity. For example, municipalities may enter legal agreements, buy and dispose of land, hire and manage employees, and take or be subject to legal actions. So, yes, a municipality could be sued too, and there's at times that they are. And these are typically referred to as corporate powers and are enabled through the community charter. So there's rules and regs about doing that through the community charter. So municipalities, as we talked about, are represented by elected officials who exercise the power and perform the obligation of the local governments with input from staff and citizens. So as a council that sits there has been duly elected by the community at large, then they work with staff and citizens to drive a direction in the city and to have things change. Now, I know what some people are going to say, well, sometimes councils don't always listen to me and do the things that I need and everything, but they have to work within the regulations that's provided to them. They also have to look at a vision that's been set for the city, working with things like zoning bylaws that have been developed, and OCPs and environmental laws, and working with and collaborating with senior levels of government. So it's not an easy task there to balance all those needs and wants at any one time, but that's what they have to do, the local citizens. And the funny thing about a lot of the people that are elected there, a lot of them part-timers. They've got another job. They do this as part-time. They come and learn. They want to do it, and so they have some big challenges, Tom, to be able to get some of these done. So then there's local government bylaws. So municipal councils and regional district boards may only make decisions by bylaw or resolution, meaning if it's a law that the citizens or somebody's going to have to change in there, it has to be presented properly, go forth reading, and become a law. And bylaws are laws that are formalized rules made by a council or board. Local governments may use bylaws for various purposes, especially to regulate, prohibit, or impose requirements such as building design, such as zoning bylaws, noise bylaws, for the noisy neighbor, dog bylaws, any of those kind of things. They all have to come to council. They read before the public, and then been approved and voted on, and they have to be voted on to be passed by a majority of council as well. So general local elections BC are held every 4 years, and the next one is, get your pencils out here, Saturday, October 15th, 2022. So if you have a desire to run for council, that's the next date, a year from, almost a year to today from now. And general local elections and by-elections are the most direct way for the public to influence their local governments, school districts, or other governing body. Now you have to remember there's two sides to that. You've got candidates up there that you're electing that have kind of put a vision out there for what they expect for this, where they want to see city go, and what some of their goals are for the city moving. Then there's a public out there that have their own ideas and their goals and aspirations as well. So between the two, and you kind of balance that out to see where the city's going. They're the most direct ways for the public to influence their local government, school districts, or other governance body. Local government powers and services, they have broad powers, as we mentioned before numerous times, and can provide services and enter into agreements. Services include activities, works, facilities provided to the community by or on behalf of the local government. So that's a big responsibility, because part of that is providing budgeting for the municipality, setting tax rates. A big responsibility, because nobody likes their taxes to go up, but a lot of the citizens want services, and so we have to work through that process as well, right? And local governments, municipalities and regional districts must obtain consent or approval of the electorate before a municipal council or regional board may proceed with certain matters, and that's where you get the public hearing come in, where public hearing is established after a law has been written and is proposed. We go through the process of staff presenting it, council debating it, and then goes to public hearings so that the public can have their input too. And it's challenged because the public have their ideas and things like that. Council have ideas, and then now it's about balance the needs and wants of both council, staff, budgets, and the needs of the people out there. Okay. One of the part of the thing is legislation sets out key roles and responsibilities for locally elected officials and how these officials conduct themselves as well. It's very, very important. It's part of that ethical reach of the politician, how he performs in the manner that's ethical for the things that need to be done around city council, right? One of the things I think Mel was going to talk a little bit more about, but local government economic development helps increase the strength and diversity of the community, and is an important piece. So we work through that process as well and look at that and how we do it. Things that include in that piece is, tax rates, industrial tax rate, business tax rates. Are we competitive with other communities to drive that? And another important piece of where we go with that is if we're bringing legislation in and that, we got to collaborate and build relationships. We build relationship with the First Nations, we build it with developers, we build it with other municipalities, we build it with the senior levels of government. It's very, very important to be able to do that so that when we need something, we can, have a chat with them and see how we can get grants and things like that there. And there is limitations. While municipal corporate powers are broad, some limitations requirements apply. These are broad general requirements, and such as municipal purposes, which include providing for stewardship of the public assets of the community. So it's really important that we're held accountable to look after the assets of the community. So one of the things we've talked about here, Tom, is that relationship with the municipality. Our governance is broad, but yet we're still constrained to something. And I found this article was really interesting because, as you said, the community charter is way out of date. And some of the things have been happening here, and the need for municipalities to get a bit more autonomy. And I found this interesting article. It was one of the chapters in the it's more of a paper than it is an article. It's evolving municipal autonomy in Canada. And it is, I just want to read this quickly. It's in the mid-2000s when Ontario and the city of Toronto were not that we have a great love for Toronto, but I think they said it's kind of an example in the frustrations that a municipality has with the federal government. And we're negotiating a new enabling statute for the city of Toronto. Dalton McGuinty, Ontario's then premier, claimed that Toronto is the engine of economic growth in Ontario and much of Canada. It's a miracle it has delivered prosperity for so long and to so many, despite living in a legislative and fiscal straitjacket that would baffle Houdini, he said. Despite significant progress in terms of their autonomy from a legal standpoint in the last 25 years, the fact remains that Canadian municipalities, no matter their size, are still very subordinate to the control of the provinces. And so hopefully as we move forward in some of those discussions and loosen things up again, we can get a little bit more autonomy. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the conclusion about why it's so important to get some more autonomy and the services that a city provides versus what the provincial and federal governments provide. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tony. Melvina, one of the processes involved in local government is economic development. Could you please speak a little more to the importance and benefits economic development means to the community?
Well, I'm going to keep it shorter. We'll be here for 3 days because this is a big topic, this economic development. Economic development helps increase the strength and diversity of local and regional economies to create jobs and improve quality life for residents. Municipalities and regional districts can take various approaches and use specific tools and strategies to support economic development in their communities. Local governments can enhance the well-being of their communities and regions through a variety of approaches, programs, and services for supporting economic development. To ensure fairness, the Community Charter prohibits local governments from assisting businesses. However, local governments can implement programs, policies, and services that support economic development in their communities. Municipalities may also enable business promotion through business improvement areas and specified tax exemptions, including revitalization tax exemptions. Local government can engage in commercial, industrial, and business activities through tools such as local government corporations, Partner with others, including businesses, community groups, or regional trusts to build new facilities or infrastructure. Create an economic development department, establish an advisory committee, or include economic policies in bylaws and plans. Seek ownership or tenure of Crown land for projects such as water treatment plant, recreational facilities, or heritage sites. And I'm going to leave it at that. Like I say, it is a big topic, and these are the main things that the local government can contribute to the local economic development.
Thanks, Melvina. At this time, I usually do a little summary of our discussion tonight. My feeling is that it's been very complex discussion, and so this summary will be somewhat brief and may miss a few of your key points that the two of you brought out tonight. But basically what I wanted to say is that municipalities are a creature of the provincial government. The municipality garners its authority from the municipal government and are beholden to them in many areas. The municipality is consisted of a council made up of a mayor and councillors, and they are the body that are responsible for developing the policies and bylaws of the municipality for the good governance and for providing the services to the community. And in addition to that, they provide direction to the chief administrative officer for carrying out their program to make sure that things are done in accordance with legislation and with the input from various different sectors. The limitations on a municipality are there because they're our big daddy and they don't trust us. So there is checks and balances in the legislation to ensure that the province can keep an eye on what we're up to. And the one particular instance is the 4 concurrent policies that are provincially directed, but in concurrence with the municipalities. So in these 4 areas, the municipality may put forward suggestions, but the province has the final word in whether the municipality can go forward on their desire. The final thing, I guess, we speak to the services that are provided, in one of those services being economic development, and that was well covered by Melvina, so I won't go into that. And I think that sort of covers what we talked about tonight. The only thing is, when I'm out and about, people always say, why does the mayor not do this? Why does the mayor not do that? And I hope from this discussion tonight, people will see that while the mayor has an important position because they're in control of the agenda, they're the face to the public of what council does. But in the end of the day, the mayor is just 1 vote out of 7. And so their power is quite limited as well. So that, I think, is a key thing we wanted to get through tonight too. Mm-hmm. So that's the municipality is a creature of the government, and council is responsible for carrying out the program. So before we go, Melvina, do you have anything else you want to add?
I'd just like to say that it's very important that the public knows that government, both provincial and local, is very complex and can be difficult to understand. It is imperative to understand the operation and workings of your local government and be aware of how much provincial responsibilities is downloaded to the municipal governments by the provincial government. It is also important to know that some concerning issues to residents, such as housing, mental health, some crime issues, to name a couple, is not controlled by local government. These issues are definitely a concern, but need to be dealt with in collaboration with senior levels of government. I would like to say that all the information provided tonight can be found on the BC government website, and encourage all citizens to read and familiarize yourselves with the community charter and any other information on municipal government and governance. And thank you, and that's it for me.
See you next month. Tony.
Yeah, thanks again, Tom, for allowing us this platform to do this. And I think I mentioned during us talk, and thank you for that summary, because it was a challenging one tonight. And I think we had to put some underpinnings there to have other people really get declared. And sorry, it went on for a little bit there, but you know what? There was some good stuff there. And I did mention I was going to say just a couple of things and how important municipalities are. And, you know, municipalities own nearly 2/3 of the core infrastructure assets in Canada, the municipalities. And so that's the roads and bridges and water and wastewater and recreational facilities and all those kinds of, so 60% of that. But do you know how much out of every tax dollar paid in this country municipalities get to run and fund those facilities, Tom? Around 10 cents. Sorry. What was your number going to be? But yeah, 10 cents. I mean, we should be getting 60%, right? But we don't, and we have to make do with that a small amount of money to provide all those resources and all those facilities for the public in Canada. And I think for the most part, municipalities do a pretty good job. And once again, I say, and you know, that the levels of government that have the bulk of the money are the ones that shut out that interaction with the public. You're not allowed to go into the legislature, you're not allowed to go out in part, but you can come to city council, right? And so there's those challenges that we have there, and there's this big inequality. But just in closing, I just want to read another statement from the same paper, and that it's moving in that direction. And that might be why they're not attacking the community charter. They're afraid of opening a can of worms. It might come to bite them in the butt, I think. But recent commentary suggests an emerging consensus that courts must respect the responsibility of elected municipal bodies to serve the people who elect them, and exercise caution to avoid substituting their views of what is best for the citizens for those municipal councils. Whatever rules of construction are applied, they must not be used to usurp the legitimate role of municipal bodies as community representatives. So I think the sooner we can get to updating that community charter, I think would be a good thing, Tom. But once again, thank you for tonight, and really appreciate that. And thanks everybody for listening and helping us wade through all that important information.
Well, thanks, Melvina and Tony, for all that fabulous information. It again is a very in-depth type of topic, and we just skimmed the surface tonight. So take Melvina's advice, get out to the BC provincial website and look up some of this information. It will certainly make you a little more aware of the difficulties that a municipality faces in putting together its legislative package. So I want to thank our viewers tonight for joining us, and we hope to see you again for the last Thursday of the month for Off the Clock City Talks, and remind you that Nicola Valley Talk is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and our great topics continue to roll through the weeks. And this was week 61. We're on to week 62. So please tune in when our guest will be Jacqueline Whitecross from Nicola Valley Rodeo Association. And she'll be here to bring you updates on how the Rodeo Association is going and what their plans are and all that good stuff for that important facility in the community, her rodeo grounds. So thank you again, and good night.